The Witch in the Wood by T.H. White. Chapter 4. When King Lot had marched away, taking the Earl Ulbaz and 5,000 horsemen with him, life became lonely and difficult at Lothane Castle. This was mainly on account of the Magic Queen, who resented the absence of the men. She never could work up much enthusiasm over Sir Palomides, partly because of the color bar, and partly because he was himself in love with another woman. It was fashionable to be in love with some unattainable lady in those days, preferably a queen, if they had not been snapped up, and Sir Palomides was at that time having an affair with a certain Queen of Cornwall called La Belle Isoud. She had nothing to do with the family of Queen Morgause, as there were two kingdoms in Cornwall. Sir Palomides had never met her, but he was engaged in writing a sonnet sequence in her honor, and this made him tedious to his own queen. Everybody at the castle went about rather quietly for this reason, and Gareth got smacked for making too much noise at supper. So it was a relief when Gawain looked out of the schoolroom window one Sunday morning and saw a white boat approaching the castle. Sir Palomides and the four boys ran down the innumerable steps to the landing stage and waited for it to arrive. It was a still day, and they could hear talking in the boat. It seemed to contain two knights, and it was going along through the water of its own volition. A rather silly-looking dog was sitting in the back of it, panting. "I say," said one of the knights in it, "there's a castle, isn't it, what? I say, isn't it a pretty one?" "Stop jogging the boat, my dear fellow," said the other knight, "or you'll have us all in the sea." The first one's enthusiasm quickly evaporated at this, and he startled the onlookers by suddenly bursting into tears. They could hear his sobs mingling with the lapping of the waves as the boat drew nearer. "Oh, sea," he said, "I wish I was in you. I wish I was full of 5 fathoms, that I do. Woe, woe, oh, woe." "It's no good saying woe, my dear fellow. The thing will woe when it wants to. It's a magican." "I wasn't saying woe," retorted King Pellinore angrily. "I was saying woe." "Well, it won't woe." "I don't care if it woes or don't woe. I said woe." "Well, woe then." And the magic boat woed with its side against the landing stage. The knights got out. Now that they were close, the Orkney children could see that one of them was a thin, melancholy man with a meek and confused expression, while the other one was short and stout and very red in the face. "How d'ye do?" said the fatter one. "My name's Grummore Grummersome, and this is King Pellinore. We've just arrived in this magic boat." "Sincere good wishes," said Sir Palomides politely. They looked at the boat, which was indeed of a supernatural kind. It was brightly painted in the primary colors, and had heraldic shields all round. Without visible means of propulsion, it was nearly covered in costly silks which trailed in the water beside it, and it smelt of spices and gave a musical sound. "We found it," said Sir Grummore. "It is clothed in white satin, isn't it?" said King Pellinore with melancholy interest. "Mystic, wonderful, what?" "It certainly is mystic." Sir Grummore Grummersome drew the Saracen aside and began talking to him in a loud stage whisper, which could be heard by all. "You know who Pellinore is, don't you? He is the fellow who's always after this questing beast arrangement. You know the creature I mean." Of course, my hat," replied Sir Palomides, who had not the faintest idea. "What is the questing beast?" asked Gawain. "The questing beast," said Sir Pellinore, seeing no reason why he should not speak for himself, even if these people were whispering, "is called by some the beast Galistant. The beast Glatistant. Either name is equally correct. She has the head of a serpent, and the body of a leopard, the haunches of a lion, and she is footed like a hart. In her body is the noise of 30 couple of hounds questing. I used to chase her." "You still do chase her, my dear chap," said Sir Grummore comfortingly. "No, I don't." "King Pellinore has fallen in love," explained Sir Grummore. "I am moving on," added the king with a touch of pride. "He has lost interest in everything except his mistress, and he is pining, and we haven't seen the beast for about a year." "Poor beast," said King Pellinore, beginning to sniff. And then with a sudden change of mood, it was a pointless creature anyway. No, Pellinore, you mustn't lose your grip. It was a very decent beast in many ways, and an extremely interesting one. You pull yourself together, my dear fellow, and talk to this gentleman. But I don't want to talk to him. Who is he? Excuse informal interruption, said Sir Palomides. Yours truly, name of Palomides, failed bardic bachelor of arts. Why does he talk like that? Asked the king. Hush, Pellinore, can't you see the chap's a paying him? Oh, splendid weather we're having, Sir Palomides. By Jove, yes, Sir Grummore. What is a paynim? What? Hush, but I want to know. A paynim is a kind of foreigner, see? Oh. King Pellinore thought this over for a moment, and then went over to Sir Palomides, holding out his hand. How do you do, what? He shouted at the top of his voice, on the principle that foreigners were like deaf people. How do, by jingo? Shouted Sir Palomides, feeling that he ought to shout too. They all shook hands. Now where are we? How do you mean? Well, I mean, where are we now? In what place? What? But we're here, Pellinore, here. I know we're here, but where's here? This magic boat has brought us somewhere, and where is that somewhere this magic boat has brought us to, I mean, exactly? Name of Lothian Castle, honourable sir. Property of King Lot of Orkney, God bless. I say, isn't that the same chap who was fighting against King Arthur? The very same. But we are knights of King Arthur, said Sir Pellinore with agitation. Aren't we, what? Oughtn't we to have a fight with this Paynim Grummore, if this pal of his, the king, is fighting against our King Arthur, eh? Of course we ought. Well, it's very inconvenient, complained the king. Perhaps if one of these boys will help me on with my helm. The bracket was sick in your helm. Or the brachet was sick in your helm, Sir Grummore pointed out. When we had the storm, so it was. I can lend you one of father's helms, said Gawain. I'll fetch it. They all stood about disconsolately waiting for the battle. I think it's a bit of a shame, remarked the king, being in love and that wretched dog being seasick and then having to fight a battle. After all, what's the point of it all? Now, Pellinore, you must not get morbid. It will all come right in the end. How can it come right? Asked the king. The princess hasn't answered my letters for months, not even when I sent her that poem about the dove. It rhymed with love, explained Sir Grummore. A splendid rhyme, said Sir Palomides, in an encouraging voice. Yes, it was, wasn't it? I thought of it. I helped you think of it, said Sir Grummore. Oh, no, you did not. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, no, you didn't. But Pellinore, I did. So I am a liar, am I, then, what? No, you are not a liar, but it isn't true. How can't I be a liar if it isn't true? Well, then, you are a liar. Oh, I'm a liar, am I? Yes, you are. Well, whatever I am, said this extraordinary king triumphantly, you're twice of it, and the only one there is. Oh, exclaimed Sir Grummore, completely baffled. At this moment they were relieved by the appearance of young Gawain bringing the helm. I suppose we had better fight about King Arthur, hadn't we? Inquired Sir Grummore. I'd rather fight about my mistress, said King Pellinore. All I to yours truly, said Sir Palomides. Well, that's what I call accommodating, said the fat knight. Right, let's have it about everything all together. Right, they said, and the boys helped them to get ready. My love, said Sir Palomides, the fairest queen and lady that ever bore life, and what yet, well, her name is La Beale Isoud, King Mark's wife of Cornwall. No, she isn't, said the king. For courtesy, nobleness, and worship of all Christian queens, my lady is peerless. What height is your queen? Asked Sir Palomides. Piggy, said the king bashfully. That's her pet name, you know. And I say, said Sir Grummore. and will prove it with my body, that of all Christian kings, King Lot is the most ungentle and false to my sovereign liege, Sir Arthur. The battle was a failure, because Sir Pellinore fell into the sea immediately. He stood on the dog's tail, stepped backwards off the landing stage, and vanished with a loud plop. The air in his armor kept coming up for some time afterwards with smaller gurgles, and the brachet ran between everybody's legs, barking all the time. And they had a bad job getting him out. Fortunately, a knight in armor always weighs less in water than he does in air, and the victim had landed in the shallow part. They managed to hook a boat hook in the chink of his hauberk, and got him into a sitting position, when his head was above water level, and after that they held out a spear to him and hauled him ashore. The worst was the mud. "I say," said King Pellinore, "I say, I'm all wet." He bubbled for a time, while Sir Grummore slapped him on the back in case that would do any good. "Better get up to the castle quickly, you'll catch pneumonia." "Immediately administer intoxicants my hat," agreed Sir Palomides. "Here's your sword," said Gawain. "You'll get it all rusty," said Gareth. "Am I blind?" asked the king. "Can you see me?" They opened his visor and looked in. It was full of mud. "We can see you," they said. "Thank God," said the king. "I thought I was blind." Queen Morgause was waiting for her visitors in the royal chamber. She had seen the magic boat arrive on account of her spells, had watched the battle from a window, and now she was quite ready to be taken by surprise. At first it had seemed a good idea to be surprised at her housework, and she had meditated putting on a frilly apron and dusting the salar. She knew it had been well dusted that morning, because she had quarreled with the maid who was doing it, and she had a charming little mob cap made of white cloth of gold tissue, in which she looked chic. First impressions were so important, and that morning she felt like being a busy little housewife. On second thoughts, however, Morgause determined that she was sick of the housewife line. She had been magicking it that way with Earl Ulbaz, and decided on a change. So, when the dripping knights were ushered into the boudoir, they had all got rather wet on the walk up the steps from the village, and the walk up the steps from the village had been most exhausting. The queen was discovered lying indolently on the daybed reading a book. She was dressed in jade green with strings of pearls, and one graceful hand hung down toward the floor in a Madame Recamier attitude. "Oh!" exclaimed the queen, in pretty confusion. "You take me by surprise." The introductions were effected. "You find me quite unprepared for company," repeated the queen. "Just an untidy, lonely woman, passing the time here until her husband gets back. But do sit down." They sat down gingerly. "You find me reading to pass the tedious days." "Why do you read the book upside down, Mummy?" The witch gave one of her musical laughs. "Ha ha 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 ha." "I say," said King Pellinore, "were you reading?" "An unprotected woman." "I read a book once," said the king. "I like reading." "So do I," said Sir Grummore, "only I find it takes a long time." "Quite unprotected?" "No, you don't say." "But still thinking," said the queen with a dreamy look, "still thinking in her loneliness of the dear ones far away." "I say! How splendid!" "Do you think so, King Pellinore?" "Oh, yes, indeed. It is the lot of us poor women, quite lonely and unprotected." "I say, Grummore," said King Pellinore, with one of his rare bursts of foresight, when they had at last been taken to their rooms. "Who is this woman, what? Ought we to go away?" And that's the end of chapter 4.